Welcome to, or happy 2026. Welcome to our first full partnership meeting of the New Jersey Coastal Resilience Collaborative. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded and the recording will be posted on the collaborative's website once it is processed. And with that, I'm going to pass off our co-chair's welcome to Liz Semple.
Thank you, Amanda. It looks like some people are still joining, so maybe we'll just give it another minute. Looks like we're at 43 now.
51.
51 from me. Oh, okay. Thank you. Welcome, and Happy New Year. We've got a new state administration in New Jersey, as well as a new year. So a lot is happening and a lot is changing. So welcome to this meeting and thank you for participating. Today, we are going to engage in a conversation with insurance industry practitioners about how coastal climate risk is shaping the industry's future and learn about actionable policy and legislative strategies underway. We are also going to hear the latest resilience updates from NJDEP and what is known about the gubernatorial transition. In addition, we're going to share updates about the collaborative activities, future actions, and opportunities for partner engagement. I think I saw Nick Angarone come on the call. So, Nick, you are our first presenter, if you are able to unmute yourself.
Thanks, Liz. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Hi, everybody. Good to see you all again. I will be as quick as possible to allow us to get to the main event here. Right. So the obvious big issue is that DEP is under new management. Right. For those of you who are not aware, Ed Potosnak is the commissioner, the acting commissioner designate. And we are in day 2 of the kind of first 2 full days of the of the administration there. The other, I guess, big part of the management team that has been identified so far is that Henry Gaida is the new chief of staff. Henry, for those of you who don't know, Henry spent the last few years at the Board of Public Utilities. And so they are still trying to get their feet under them, learning everything from how to use their computer and phone to who the 3,400 people within DEP are and what they all do. So that will certainly be a bit of a learning curve, but that is already underway. For people who are going to ask, to my knowledge at least, there have been no people who have been asked to leave the department at this point, although there are certainly some title changes. Okay, the last few weeks have seen a flurry of report releases and other such announcements. I guess perhaps the biggest news is that the real rules were adopted on the 20th. What I can say at this point is that training and outreach plans are still TBD, but any updates will be posted on the real website and shared. And I will post a few websites in the chat after my update. Excuse me. The adoption and response to comment document is in the New Jersey Register. Free access is available, which again, I'll provide that link in multiple places online. A legacy guidance document for those applications to the department that may be complete before the regs come into full effect. is also posted on the REAL website, and we are working to post updates to the Flood Hazard Area Technical Manual. So all of that is coming soon. We also, in the last week, have released an update to the New Jersey Scientific Report on Climate Change. The original was released back in the summer of 2020. There were multiple additions and additional research completed in that time, all of which has been compiled into a 2025 update of that report. We consider this report and the information within it the best available peer-reviewed scientific research on the current and anticipated challenges of climate change, as always, a particular focus on science specific to the state. Also released was the State of the Environment report. This is a nice long document for everybody to take a look at that goes through kind of the history, progress of environmental and related issues in New Jersey, at DEP's involvement and the progress we've made, and does set forth some recommended next steps for consideration going forward. Also released was the 2025 annual report of the Interagency Council on Climate Resilience, which identified 95 actions taken by departments and agencies over the last year around climate resilience, very broad across, I think, all 26 or all 25 departments and agencies that serve on the council. So again, worth a perusal. It is certainly intended to be written for a quick read. For those of you up in the Meadowlands area, in the last few days, DEP and reps from the Army Corps met. There's a whole bunch of words and acronyms here that I'm not going to bother you guys with, but the summary is that Army Corps General Kelly approved the RBD Meadowlands East Riser Channel Improvements Project. So this is for inclusion in the upcoming WRDA bill, or the 2026 WRDA bill. So this is a significant next step in the RBD Meadowlands project. Finally, from me, for our local partners, there will be another notice of funding for the Resilient NJ program coming in the next 2 months. I want everybody to please keep an eye on that. We will again be seeking multi-municipal regions to provide a small grant to, as well as significant support to develop a comprehensive resilience action plan. We have not made a significant announcement, but we did already identify 2 regions for this support in the state, one around the Shark River watershed in Monmouth County, and another up in the Montclair area, where we will be starting work with them later this year to develop those regional plans. So that's my update. To the extent that you have time, I can try and answer a couple of questions. But again, thanks for having me. Great to see everybody.
Nick, are all the documents on the DEP webpage?
Yes.
Okay.
Somewhere. Perhaps not. And the website, right, new administration is in flux, but I will seek to share links to everything over the next few minutes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions for Nick? Okay, let's move on to our insurance
I do have a
conversation.
question a little bit.
Oh,
Nick, do you
okay,
have
go
any
ahead.
sense? Do you have any sense within the governor's office itself whether there's anybody who was tasked with the environmental portfolio or anything in that regard? I assume it's all in flux, but I just wondered.
I think, Tony, I think it's in flux. I think to, and I'm not going to pretend that that I know kind of every decision that is made there, but um, yeah, I think we're probably waiting to hear more from them on what that looks like internally.
Thanks.
Nick, I had a question. Even though it's kind of early, you did mention that there's some title change. Do you know, and I guess it's kind of early, whether or not there'll be any restructuring changes in DP in relation to obviously resilience or any other area?
I honestly, I think it's far too early
Okay.
to know that. I know that Acting Commissioner Potosnak has started to meet with assistant commissioners and other high-level staff, but I think they're still trying to get a feel for who is what and who does what before they make some of those decisions.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Nick. Um, Next we have David and Alexander. If you guys could introduce yourselves, they've got about a half an hour presentation, and then we'll bring Pete Kasabak up from New Jersey Future, and then some questions about. Then we'll open it up for some Q&A for this panel. So, David and Alexander, you were gonna share your PowerPoint, and do you want to introduce yourselves, please?
Sure. Thank you, Elizabeth. Alex, do you want to go first?
I insist you go first, Dave.
Thank you. Well, since I'm not from New Jersey, I really appreciate your congeniality with that. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having us today. I'm David Radomski. Alex and I are with Zurich Resilience Solutions. We're the risk advisory practice of Zurich Insurance Group, the large global commercial insurance company. I sit in the Washington, D.C. area, and I'm in business development as part of our risk advisory practice. I do a lot of work with Alex's extreme weather group and know enough about the topic to be dangerous. So going to support Alex in his talk today, and it's a real pleasure to meet you all. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Everyone expect some cracking jokes from Dave because he has super sharp humor in these presentations, and it's always good to have him on board with this. Thanks, everyone, for having us. Elizabeth, thank you for opening up the discussion. I am Alexander Marescu. I am New York born, New Jersey raised, grew up at the beach in Toms River, so coastal resilience is very dear to my heart. I am the head of what we call extreme weather. Probably one of the coolest professional titles I've ever had, the head of extreme weather. It sounds like I sell the extreme weather, but it's actually quite the opposite. We are in the position of bringing to bear in the market, whether it's with municipalities, local governments, regional governments, or the private sector, our full advisory and consulting capacity as part of the wider Zurich family. But Zurich Resilient Solutions, ZRS, is and specifically our extreme weather team. The other working title we have is also just our climate resilience. This is the other word we would use for extreme weather, but I think we're all in not only New Jersey, but in friendly company here to use that language. What we do is we are part of our advisory consulting part of the Zurich House. We interact a lot on the insurance side, but we leverage our 150 years of history in understanding what causes loss, claims, damage, and interruption, and we laser focus that on how is that manifested from extreme weather events. How can we look at portfolio risk, physical risk, and look at risk engineering and apply it to specific geographies, and coastal resilience is really one of our wheelhouse areas. So, Elizabeth, Amber, am I supposed to share screen at this point? Is that on me, or?
Yep, you can go ahead and share.
Thank you, Amanda. Okay. So we put together a slide deck here. Just make sure I got it up. There we go. And while this comes up, it's also good to see some familiar faces here. It's good to see Nick. We know each other. Let me know. Can you guys see my screen share now?
Yes.
Okay. Is it on the right? Amanda's on the right presentation mode. Is that right?
So go ahead and click start the slideshow.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
There you go.
And you're going to have to swap it.
Oh, okay. There we go. How's that?
Awesome. Okay. Looks good.
Great. Just a quick walkthrough of the agenda, and then I'll have Dave give some opening remarks and some conversational talking points and guideposts for us as we discuss this topic. But 4 major things we'd like to cover today. Firstly, we want to talk about how do we look at climate resilience in extreme weather from the perspective of the insurance industry, specifically my team at Zurich Resilience Solutions. We want to also apply that and look at what's the current state of insurance now in the U.S. And in New Jersey specifically. What's the state of that discipline? Where do we see this going? Dave and I have some interesting points that we've gathered on that through our research. Agenda point 3. How does the insurance industry look at resilience? We'll talk a little bit from that perspective. And then finally, what are the benefits of coastal resilience to insurance within the context of New Jersey? So looking forward to all of that. Dave, would you like to kick off with some starting comments and some conversational points here?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll keep it very brief so we can adhere to our time constraints. But Alex and I, we do a fair amount of these talks and multiple calls a day trying to sell our products. We generally are speaking to risk managers, resilience officers. Sometimes there's some crossover to sustainability officers. And then all the way up to the C-suite of companies, and then when it comes to municipalities, to city and county managers. And our messaging is fairly consistent here. And if there are 3 takeaways that I can leave you with today, the first one is that on the topic of extreme weather, that extreme weather is here now. It's not something we're looking at in the future. Despite all these wonderful net zero efforts that companies and communities are making, all these decarbonization efforts, the weather is bad and it's getting worse. So, losses are happening now, and we do expect the benefits of decarbonization not to be realized for a long time. And in that interim, the extreme weather will continue to be a problem and most likely get worse. The second point is that insurance, and that's a big part of what we're presenting today, globally in the US, and then certainly with regard to coastal New Jersey, insurance is getting not only more expensive, it's getting harder just to get. And, as a lot of us know, without insurance, business doesn't get done. And if a company or a community is uninsurable, it is not investable. So, that unfortunately is the state of what's going on with regard to the losses the insurance industry is taking. And if companies cannot make money, they're going to become more risk averse and not provide coverages in those areas. So the final point is, with that as a starting point, resilience becomes more important than ever. Alex is going to talk about something called the insurance protection gap, and that is the amount of losses that occur from extreme weather that aren't covered by insurance, and resilience measures can close that gap. Resilience measures can make these events and to be more of a distraction and not a devastation. And I think hopefully that's the key message we can leave you with today. That when partnered with insurance, resilience is really paramount to this discussion. So with those three takeaways, I'll turn it over to Alex.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate that. And even if Dave isn't from New Jersey, he grew up in Pennsylvania, and apparently he really likes the Spring Lake beaches, and I can't blame him for that because they're very nice. We've had long conversations about that. Well, yeah, thanks for the handoff, Dave. A quick follow up to his points, especially on this whole question of insurability. We'll be touching on topics of infrastructure in this presentation. We'll be talking about investments in resilience. We'll be talking about the return on investment in resilience. All those are very important. But one point of departure here is none of those investments make much sense if they are not bankable. And the way you reach bankability is, the ability to have a project funded is based on, to the extent it is insurable. Bankability and insurability go hand in hand, and we are at a critical inflection point right now, globally, nationally, but especially in New Jersey. I know you guys all know this, but New Jersey is, depending on who you look at, the 4th or 5th most flood-prone state in the United States, not too far after Florida and New York. And the idea is that it will become increasingly difficult to insure properties that are at risk if they are not designed resiliently, if proper risk assessments have not been taken into account, not only on current risk, but looking at real best-in-class climate data that models risk into the future. And one other thing I'd like to add to that, beyond just the insurability and bankability of infrastructure, is the whole question of multi-hazard approaches. We know that it is never not just one thing. Floods happen with many other hazards that are taking place: sea level rise, storm surge, drought, and things like that. When we look at wildfires, we had, ironically, New Jersey is the most urbanized state in the country, and I'll talk about that in a second. We had several major wildfires last year. All of these go hand in hand with a multi-hazard understanding of how risk takes place. So just want to put it in everyone's mental map there: insurability, bankability, and multi-hazard approach. How do we look at resilience? Well, adapting to today's perils through a two-level approach: portfolio risk and physical risk. On the portfolio side, it's really important to understand how you're deploying your capital investments. Even before you get to the design build phase or getting something in the built environment, a lot of this work looks at where is the risk that you have on your portfolios to begin with, whether you are a municipality and you have hundreds of properties within your purview, if you're the mayor or the CRO, and that is the portfolio that you are managing. And so understanding where risk is located across those portfolios is key. On the physical risk side, it's also understanding what's the risk engineering. And so do you have the capacity to send resilience-focused experts on site to look at how the physicality of that infrastructure comports or behaves with the particular types of risks to which it's exposed? We look at that from this circular approach. We like to start with the risk identification part of that left wheel, the upper left corner. You can't reduce your risk until you know what your risk is. And so understanding from the portfolio perspective where your risks lie at location level specific and site specific level. Once you get that mapped out, then you can really do a deeper dive and find out, okay, wait a second, here I have, take a mayor or a company that has 500 properties. First, you start to identify the risk across the portfolio. You get a real detailed understanding with the right support, and you find out that, wait a second, I have from that 500, I have 43 that are at high flood risk at 2030, 2060, 2100. I have another 12 properties that are at wildfire risk. I have X amount that are going to really be exposed to extreme weather, water stress, drought severity, things like that. And you can then start to drill down at that risk assessment level. From the risk assessment is where you get the risk insights. You can see how your properties work, how they behave under certain stress scenarios, and then you can engage in the risk improvement actions, something that's very close to what we do. An RIA is a risk improvement action, meaning you're getting the right advisory and consulting approach um, from actors who know what are the most cutting edge technologies in stormwater capture, structural void space, structural soil cells, stormwater management, urban heat, you name it. And having that that skill set, but also having that active library of what are the best technologies to implement, and knowing who can implement that is very key. Risk improvement also means, are you in a position to sit down with your underwriter and say, look, we've done a whole lot of risk improvement actions. We're trying to be more future ready and more resilient. Can we have a conversation now about improving our insurance scenario? Because ultimately insurance is interested in risk. And if you can demonstrate that you're on a credible resilience journey, you're much better prepared and stood up for the future. That's where underwriting can come in and have that discussion. So that kind of sets the stage. Move a little bit quicker here. Many of you might know these types of equations that are applied to understanding risk. Typically, we look at what are the exposures, the hazards, and the vulnerabilities. Those three factors give us the event. They give us the risk. I'm sorry. They are almost like the mathematical and logic equation here that gets us to different levels of risk as they relate to a particular event. And the event is the peril. And at ZRS, depending on where your infrastructure, your asset is, your site is, we can look at anywhere between 15 to 20 different hazards. The other thing here is looking at what are the controls. What is it on site that you have already that is reducing your risk? So this is also part of the risk equation that we always like to plug in here. Talking a little bit about like what's the state of risk and how is this relative to New Jersey, and how is looking at the where the insurance industry plugs in here. I mean, we know that, as Dave said, climate risk is not increasing, it is skyrocketing. And we are seeing things like wildfires in places in the US where we do not expect them, like New York State, but New Jersey, as I mentioned before. The intensity of the events that are happening, and we're waiting for one in about 48 hours. I think it's called Winter Storm Fern. It looks like it's going to be an event from southwest Texas all the way up to Connecticut. And we'll see how the southern states deal with cold, ice, and snow. That promises to be probably a very heavy loss event. But we all know this, that these events are not only becoming more intense, wetter, longer, or drier, but the economic impacts are key to understanding why the imperative is so high. It is just becoming far more costly for us. When we talk about costs, then we're also talking about how the insurance industry steps in here and speaks to what we call the protection gap. And that is essentially the difference between insured assets and uninsured assets, or not fully insured assets. So how big is the protection gap in the US? It is not like other parts of the world where there's very limited insurance penetration, but the trend is in the US is going towards that. What is the protection gap? It refers to the difference between insured and uninsured losses. We know that the insurance industry plays a very key role in the resilient space, not only on the last mile, but how do we deploy all that understanding of risk and claims before the event happens as a part of behavioral change. And essentially, there is a growing protection gap, but the protection gap lowers the financial ability of economies to come back from disasters, as a lack of insurance makes recovery harder for businesses and people. That's why, I mentioned at the beginning, for us, we have the ability to bring in underwriters to reward, quote unquote, or recognize the efforts of our public and private sector clients when they are taking real serious steps towards not only reducing the protection gap, becoming more resilient. That's where the industry can come in and say, look, X stakeholder is actually taking significant steps. Can we get a better insurance relationship with them? Dave, would you like to jump in a little? We've had many discussions about the protection gap and insurability. Did you want to add a couple points on that?
I think you've covered it pretty well, Alex. I liken it. There's a slide I've used a lot in my career, and if we look at an event or a loss as an iceberg, the little tip of the iceberg that's above the water, a lot of times that's the insured component of the event, and there's so much of the event under the part of the iceberg under the water that is not covered by insurance. Businesses can take years to recover from an event of a big magnitude, and there can be a lag that isn't covered, and reputational damage and lost market share and things like that. So this concept of the gap is very real, and what closes the gap is building resilience.
Correct. Yeah. Thanks, Dave. Well, this looks at sort of the state of the insurance discipline in the U.S. right now in terms of the protection gap. And what's the state of climate disasters in New Jersey? No surprise, you're talking about a state with a 127-mile coastline, a stretch of which I proudly grew up on in Ocean County. You're looking at internal riverine risk, tremendous amount of that across the different rivers and tributaries in the state. Then you have the whole stretch of the Delaware River and the Hudson River as well. So maybe some people don't look at it this way, but New Jersey is a peninsula, and that is very hydrologically exposed. I live in the city of Jersey City, and there's another interesting aspect of climate and climate risk. Jersey City, to my best knowledge, and I really racked my brain for a long time. In a prior role, I was the interim director of sustainability and resilience in Jersey City. And I could not find another city anywhere in the world, let alone the US, that had two non-contiguous coastlines. Jersey City has a western on the two river exposures and a bay exposure. And just really interesting how New Jersey faces water in so many aspects. How does that pan out? Well, 2025 was really unique. I mapped out some of the major events, but there are so many small and medium-sized events that can everyone still see me here? My computer just, oops. Okay.
We did lose your PowerPoint, I
You
believe.
lost your slides, Alex.
Is it back now?
Not yet.
Okay. Are we back up and running?
We're just seeing you, Alex, not your slides.
Okay, 1 second. Let me see. I don't know what happened there, but let me.
You may need to share your screen again.
Yeah, let me reshare. For some reason it dropped off very unexpectedly. I do not know how that happened. There we go. And we'll do the swap. There we are. Sorry about that. I have no idea what happened. Okay. Right. So to come back to the state of disasters in New Jersey, um, so many of these events are small and medium-sized events. It's that little, part of a neighborhood that 20 houses get, 2 inches of rain in their basement or their garages. It's that water stress for parks or businesses that are dependent on water that they maybe only experience short amount of periods of stress, but now the droughts have become longer and more severe. Water stress has become more severe, and it starts to eat into the bottom line, not only of companies but businesses and also private homes and municipalities. So New Jersey had tremendous amount of drought in 2025. There were a string of pretty strong windstorms and deluge events throughout July. As many of you remember the extratropical rainstorms from post-cyclonic tropical storm Ida. Interesting point on that. There was a 2-page spread in New Jersey. New Jersey, we have a point of pride. I mean, we're typically funny people compared to the rest of the country. Dave, as a Pennsylvanian, will attest to that. But one thing we can be very proud of is the city of Hoboken, New Jersey. Several years ago, was selected as a role model city by the United Nations as one of the 30 most resilient cities in the world, and it's true. I used to do a lot of work with Caleb Stratton. And at the time, the name of the mayor of Hurricane Sandy, her name is slipping my mind right now. Dawn Zimmer, pardon me. Hoboken, in that extratropical rain event of Ida, those rains devastated Jersey City, Lower Manhattan, and large swaths of Brooklyn, and rendered them really almost inoperable for days and weeks. There was a spread in the New York Times on how Hoboken, within around 12 to 18 hours of that same event, the next day, I think they had their Puerto Rican Pride event. They had such a mitigated approach that they were able to be back and operational. And it was a real strong testament of Caleb Stratton's work. Also, obviously, a lot of support coming from Nick Angarone's office at the New Jersey CRO Resilience Office. But it's a really great example that we have in New Jersey when it comes to coastal flooding. Hoboken is a coastal city on the Hudson River, essentially built in a swamp. The other event that a lot of us didn't expect were these horrific wildfires in Ocean County. We actually, as a result of that, there was a healthcare facility in Toms River that dodged by a couple miles those fires and was very concerned. And if you think of Community Medical Center, one of the largest medical facilities in New Jersey, it was also just a few miles away from those wildfires that would have been devastating if it had just strayed a little bit further north into Toms River. There would have been even more damage there. So the mapping of risk in New Jersey is unique and very expansive. So how do we look at extreme weather? We do so, this is generally the insurance industry, and we're part of that. So as we look at increasing severe weather from wildfires, floods, intense heat waves, and rising sea levels, all those events threaten organizations' physical assets, operations, people, livelihoods, and they're causing more and more business disruption, and in some cases even eliminating a business's viability. We're at a stage where a lot of businesses and livelihoods are one event away from insolvents, or one event away from closing their doors. Municipalities are one event away from having real serious liquidity issues. Their ability to bounce back can be so severely disrupted that we have to really look at this with a lot of attention. Where does this all derive from? Well, it's essentially a bit of like actuarial risk, and it's an enterprise risk. Households are enterprises, businesses are obviously enterprises, and municipalities are enterprises. We work on budgets. So from that perspective, the physical assets, the operations are key to this. And we're looking at, we cite here the World Economic Forum. I was going to put this in this slide. They put sort of immediate and then long-term risks. They put out their World Economic Risk Assessment for 2026. On the top 10 on the immediate risk side, there are 3 or 4 that are climate related. On the long-term risk, the next 10 years, extreme weather is the #1 risk driver. And why? It's because we're looking at economic losses well into the 3-digit trillions. And this is like, I love what Dave dropped in here. We're looking at a staggering $16 million an hour. This is really tremendous. Well, part of how we look at resilience in the insurance industry is not on the devastation side. Yes, we're concerned with that. What we do at Zurich Resilient Solutions is how do we offset? What are the behavioral models that we can look at to mitigate? And one way that we have our discussions when Dave and I sit down with people is, especially folks who don't have a full understanding, they want to learn more, but they're like, look, I know something's going on with risk. I have exposure, but I don't know how to identify it, let alone understand what's the financial quantification behind that. That's something that we can do. We have at ZRS, my team, we have the ability to actually financially quantify the impacts across multiple time horizons. Where we're going with this discussion is, so what's then the benefits? What's the return on investment for resilience? I was going to almost do like a little exercise with the team here, and survey everyone to see what do you think the ROI is for every $1 invested. But really, there is no credible negative relationship of adaptation and resilience when it comes to financially quantifying the benefits. I'm unaware of any econometric study that says, you know what, it's not worth your time, it's not worth your money, it's not worth engaging your chief risk officer, your CFO, and having the discussion on the benefits of resilience, because you're going to end up paying more for less. It's stood on its head. Even the most primitive, basic adaptation investments or business continuity plans, they typically fall in a spectrum of about 2 to 3 to 1 for every $1, $2 to $3 for every $1 invested. That's already double and triple the amount. When we look at larger, more sophisticated approaches, some of the ways that we support our clients, we're looking at very convincing and compelling figures. The World Bank has it around 7 to 10. That's moved into 10 to 15, between 10 and 15 USD for every $1 invested. The World Economic Forum this summer put out a great study, very elegant econometric study that points to a spectrum of up to 43 to 1. So I'd love to sit down with like the CEO of a company or a mayor and say, tell me what business school you went to that thinks it's okay for you to pay double, triple, 10 times, 15, 20, 25 times the amount for responding, reconstruction, and rehabilitation post-event. We are at a point where the econometric imperative is beyond convincing, and this is why
Alex,
resilience
these are
matters.
great points. But you're at time, but if you could just
Sure.
wrap it up in the next minute or so, that would be
Yeah,
great.
this is it.
Thank
My
you.
last slide is right here.
Great, thank you.
Benefits of coastal resilience in New Jersey. I grew up seeing multiple hurricanes. One was Hurricane Gloria, September 28th, 1987. I was running around in my backyard with my brother, where I remember these events very, very vividly. Obviously, Hurricane Sandy. What's this all mean for New Jersey? We can talk about all the sustainability and the ecosystem and biodiversity impacts. Those are very relevant, but really, we like to talk about as the business case. There are financially quantifiable impacts that come from this. New Jersey is a tremendously infrastructure heavy state. You look at transport, airports, but where it really hits us in New Jersey is in our tourism sector. New Jersey has, I think this number is a little bit low. I've seen even higher numbers, but we have a 12-week from essentially May to September, a $16 billion beach tourism annual revenue that generates over 1.5 billion for local communities and tax bases and an income. I put some of the cases there from South Cape May, where resilience and restoration keeps generating millions and millions of dollars for homes and tourism. So a lot of people don't recognize or want to understand how important or how beautiful our beach ecosystems are, from Sandy Hook all the way down to Cape May, and I've probably surfed many beaches all in between those, being an avid New Jersey surfer for 35 years. This is where we see the benefits of coastal resilience. It's a business case. If we don't adopt to this, then we're losing money, and we don't even have to engage in all the ethical and moral discussions on sustainability. It's literally at this point a bottom line accounting discussion. So I'll stop there. I think I'm at time, and I will stop sharing.
That's great, Alex. And now we'll bring up Pete Kasabak and hang around, Alex and David, because they're hopefully we'll have some time for a few questions. Pete, do you have slides or you?
Have no slides.
Okay, great.
Well, thank you guys. So I'm Pete Kasabak with New Jersey Future. For those who don't know, we're a statewide policy organization. We've been involved in climate change adaptation for over a decade, and that's ranged from helping to develop vulnerability assessment tools to getting the municipal land use law changed to advancing a number of other different policies to help New Jersey adapt better to climate change and partnering obviously with the DEP and other state agencies. I think what was pretty clear from the presentation is that something that we all know, which is that we need to do a better job of adapting to climate change. And the case that the insurance industry is able to make is that there's a extreme economic benefit in doing that. And yet we still in the state of New Jersey do not do it. And so one of the things that we have been pushing, I think the reason I was asked to come and talk today is we helped get a bill introduced in this last legislature, and it'll be reintroduced again to create a blue ribbon task force on insurance itself. And the motivation behind this is that, we need to keep putting new irons in the fire to try and make the case for why we need to be investing in resilience and in adaptation. And so this Blue Ribbon Commission, has a very specific purpose to assess the current and predicted impacts of climate change on residential and commercial property insurance. And it's analyzing a whole series of different indicators to do that. And the purpose being to understand what are the drivers in the insurance industry that are causing insurance not only to become more expensive, but when it becomes more expensive, the alternative to that is it becomes lower quality insurance. So we're seeing higher rates, lower quality insurance, if you can even get it. So what are the drivers of that? And if we're able to unpack that, the task force is meant to look at the private sector as well as the national insurance program. So the idea is to unpack that. The commission or the Blue Ribbon Task Force has 17 members across a whole stakeholder group, and they have a year once they're put in place, a year to come up with a report that analyzes what are the drivers and what are the challenges, and then a set of recommendations for how the state can move forward. which we would expect would include a much more aggressive approach to resilience. Um, that's sort of high level. I mean, as far as next steps, we're expecting this to be reintroduced in the next week or so. If folks have questions about it, I would suggest you take a look at it. It's a very short bill. Um, if you have questions, feel free to reach out to me and ask. We would, as this starts to move forward, we'd love to have your support in helping to advance this bill. The sooner we can get the task force in place, the sooner they can get to work and deliver some results. Um, that's kind of it for me, unless somebody else wants me to talk about more about insurance.
That's great. Pete, can you make that bill available in the chat or to Amanda and we can circulate separately?
Yeah,
I'm
I did
not
just
sure.
share it in the
Okay,
chat
great.
if anyone
Thanks,
wants to
Amanda.
take a look. Yep.
So now we have time for a few or a couple questions. Is anybody interested in asking a question? Don't hold back because this is your time. Okay, Tony.
That's Peter just dropped the mic there. It was so good that left the crowd speechless.
No, thanks. I appreciate it. I guess part of my questions is I kind of get all this, and we've sort of had various versions of this, and the ROI has gone up over the years, but it doesn't make a change. And this is what that's what a little concerned about me. So I mean, I'm trying to figure out, like the bill, Peter, don't know why we need it. I feel like why aren't people in a room having this discussion? Why aren't the homeowners and the builders saying we can't build because of what? It doesn't feel like we really. I think we should be at an inflection point, but we're not. So what am I missing that we had? This is not a new issue. The urgency of it, you guys have documented with greater sense of urgency. But I keep saying, why isn't this considered to be an economic development issue for New Jersey? Because we have so much at risk. So what am I missing? Because these tale of horribles and fears just haven't move the dial. The threat of home ownership, of bankability, mortgage rates, all that, it just doesn't seem to be having an impact. So what am I missing?
I can give you a quick answer, and maybe the insurance guys can give an answer, but it's exactly what you said. It hasn't it hasn't hit the market yet to a point that it's making people decide to do things differently. Whether we're using the federal insurance and it's sort of subsidizing risky
Right.
decisions, whether people are just going a different route and not getting insurance, whether they're just paying that little extra to get the insurance. It's just not hitting a critical point yet where it's affecting enough people.
Yeah, that's a problem to get.
I hear that.
People, you know what I'm saying, Peter. This is not that we've been sort of saying this for about 10 years. Like, oh my God, it's not moving the dial. So I'm trying to figure
Well, I
out
remember, Tony, I remember when we were, after Sandy, we're like, oh, well, this is a big wake up call. Prices are going to go down at the shore now because it's so risky
right.
there. And what do we see? The opposite happen.
Exactly. And that's still the case. So anyway, I'm trying to figure out. It'd be great to get the insurance folks out more. It'd be great to get towns to see what the investment is. But investment and adaptation is this is my pitch. How do we think of investment and adaptation as being something that is worth it for the people who want to invest in nature-based features, invest in more stronger buildings? It's that kind of thing. So anyway, that's my pitch. So thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I do see Alexander has his hand up.
Yeah, sure. I'd like to just react to that real quick, and I appreciate those points. A couple things. I would push back a little bit on one thing. Hurricane Sandy was the wake-up call. Maybe Hurricane Irene before that could have done that, but Sandy was the devastation that moved the vocabulary. Before Sandy, we didn't use the word resilience; we used disaster risk reduction. We had the Rebuild, Buy, and Design project, which a lot of municipalities in New Jersey got a tremendous amount of financial support, Hoboken being the leader on that. Where I think we can get a lot more action on that is, and I have yet to see it. I'm a little bit disappointed with all the discussion about affordability. It still kind of boggles my mind that we are not looking at affordability from the perspective of risk and from extreme weather, because, like I said, one household is one flood away from being forced out. We like to talk about people being forced out by gentrification. The numbers go the other way. It is more extreme weather that is causing that type of forced migration. So I really am encouraged by the new governor in New Jersey. I'm really hoping that this discourse around affordability, whether it's with the new mayor in New York City, the new mayor in Jersey City, or at the governor's office, that we have to look at the affordability question from this perspective of mitigating potential loss scenarios. And New Jersey is extremely vulnerable. Yeah, I would love to see this at every board meeting in a company should be looking at this, and every maybe it's a little bit far be it for me to say this, but I think every municipality should have at least some sort of climate risk focal point, if not chief resilience officer. I don't think that could be mandated, but it's certainly something that those cities that do have chief resilience officers drive home those points. They make the discourse very public, and they present the numbers. And Caleb Stratton's work in Hoboken was the foundation of this New York Times piece to say urban resilience matters because there are economic and business propositions and value propositions that increase the continuity and the operations, and therefore drive down the costs when adaptation takes place. So I think we're all going to be scratching our heads as why this is not more front and center, but it is moving, and I would love to see that more linked to this whole affordability question that's taking over the national discourse.
Thanks. I see two or three more questions. I can't see everybody's hand if more people have their hand up. Stan, I think you were next.
Well, thank you. I just have a couple of observations and some apparent disconnects. New Jersey has among the highest rates of redevelopment in coastal areas damaged by storms and in other floodplains. And I think in part that's due to the fact that the insurance costs, because they're subsidized by the federal government, really don't reflect the risk. And anytime there's a discussion about homeowners and property owners, business owners, et cetera, sharing more of that risk, carrying more of that risk, why not move into those areas? Somebody else is paying for it. And, the state and local governments could, be a much more aggressive and much more conservative in some ways in doing that. But right now, I don't think there's an incentive for them to do it because somebody else is picking up the tab at the end of the day.
Thanks. Kamal?
Just wanted to say thank you to let me see, David and Alex for their presentation, and to ask about your company or other companies that you're aware of that have pulled out, or not provided insurance because of the coastal issues, storms and climate, et cetera.
I can jump in on that, and then would love to have Dave add to that. In terms of pulling out of insurance, that's the big question of how in the insurance industry. And I'm not classically from this industry, but I've learned a lot about it when I started to work for ZRS here. It's the big question of not so much pulling out. At one point, yes, it will be more and more difficult to cover claims. And this is why that resilience journey we speak of is financially and economically the driver there. That will keep the insurability and the insurance market readily available and with better products. The big question is in the insurance industry, they call the difference between a hard market and a soft market. A soft insurance market means you have a lot of product, you have a lot of options, you have a lot of insurance companies to go to. In a harder market, it becomes more difficult to find the affordable capacity, the affordable products. And yeah, we know markets where, for example, wildfires, it is becoming, that's really the case in the U.S. In about exactly 1 year ago, the January fires in LA County, the 2 learning points. The mayor of LA came out and said, we're going to build back immediately in those places, and that ended up being, maybe the wrong messaging, because they were not looking into building back more resiliently. The other point is the insurance company said, well, wait a second, all these houses, these housing facilities, the infrastructure, they were never, they were not properly designed. If you can build back with resilience and risk identification from the beginning, that's where the insurance industry will probably stay on board and continue to work. But if that doesn't happen, then yeah, you will just see uninsurable markets in the U.S. and that's nowhere where that's not a space we want to get into. But let me ask Dave on that.
Yeah, Alex, I think they want to wrap up here, so we can address it in the chat. But yeah, absolutely. Zurich and other markets pulled out of high density housing in Florida and in the Caribbean. And I think, they're only going to come back into those markets where resilience is a big part of the conversation. So, but yeah, as suggested, put additional questions in the chat and we'll be glad to address them there. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Alex, David, and Pete. This has been really informative, and it's such an important topic.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the invitation.
You're welcome. Next, we have a update on our board members. Tony McDonald, who has spoken here before, is transitioning from Monmouth Urban Coast Institute Director to Senior Ocean Policy Fellow. He'll be stepping down from his seat on the board, although he does plan to stay involved in the policy work group. As part of the transition, Tom will be moving on to the board in his place. So that's the quick update on that from that perspective, so we can get back on track time-wise. Amanda, you're going to announce the new general partners?
Yes, absolutely. All right, so since our last full partnership meeting in June, we have onboarded 10 new partners, whether they have signed up as a resource affiliate individually or joined with their organization. So anyone who's on the call today that has recently joined, if you want to introduce yourself in the chat, if you haven't already, I just want to welcome you aboard. Yeah, thanks for joining us today, and we hope to see you at the conference in a few months, which we'll go into in a little bit. I'm just going to roll right through into the next agenda item. So just talking a little bit about some outreach and events that the NJCRC has been participating in recently. So in 2025, we had actually the most engagement with tabling and exhibiting at events. And so here's a few that we've attended since our last meeting in June 2025. So thanks to everyone who has helped us and invited us to these separate events. We had a really nice engagement at the League in October or November of last year. And we also participated in the NJFM conference in October, and one of the highlights was participating in a roundtable event on coastal resilience, which was part of one of their networking activities. And so we want to thank all of our partners who helped us get there and helped us engage all these new partners that have come on board. So just a little bit about that. And then talking a little bit about some of the things we've been at, just want to highlight the NJCRC working groups that we have at the collaborative, where our partners assist us in making things happen. And one of the huge events that we have coming up in the second week of March is our Coastal and Climate Resilience Conference. And so I'm going to pass it off to Terry Doss and Carl Villakova to tell us a little bit about the conference and get excited for it.
Great. Thanks, Amanda. And yes, I'm very excited to provide you with this update, which is titled the Navigating Changing Tides. And it truly is a time of transition right now. So what better way to begin to try to understand these changes than getting together with 400 of your closest friends and colleagues, basically a who's who in New Jersey of coastal and climate professionals all in one space. As you can see from this slide, we have a 1 day left for early bird registration, but the rate only goes up by $75 if you don't miss it by tomorrow. We really worked hard to keep our 3-day conference rate low, and compared to everything else in the area, we think we achieved that goal. So hope you can all make it. And please, if you have any issues with the registration fee, do reach out to us. We've been able to work with a number of people to make sure this is accessible to everybody. On to the next slide. We're going to be getting together at the Seaview Resort in Galloway. It is truly a beautiful place with great views, great spaces. Next slide. And some of the place has been completely redeveloped, so you can see it's light and airy, but they kept their historical features like their indoor pool. So it's just a great way to get away for 3 days, leave everything behind, and really dive into the conference itself. Next slide. So our agenda is still in development, and we'll be working to make sure we include voices from the new administration as well as some of our local legislative voices. But we already have this full program, which includes many of you, the NJCRC membership. Our sessions, the full agenda is on our website, but the sessions include updates on New Jersey's climate science, important new tools to help municipalities and individuals adapt to changing climate and coastal conditions, discussions with the next generation of climate professionals and how they're reimagining climate resilience, panels on building partnerships with our local schools and municipalities to train a climate literate workforce for the future, and cutting edge discussions on everything from housing, insurance, like the one we just listened to, finance, funding, permit reform, nature-based tools, and transforming municipal resilience in New Jersey. So if you've attended our 2024 conference or any of our technical workshops over the last year, you're already aware of our top-notch programming. But you're also aware that we love nothing more than good networking opportunities. And we have opportunities littered throughout the 3 days there, which for me and others might actually be 4 or 5 days. So you might come on Sunday and stay till Thursday. But some of our outside activities that help you meet some of the top people that you might already know and others that you might not know. We have networking events on Monday and Tuesday night. Tuesday night will include oysters from the Barnegat Oyster Collective. That in of itself is worth coming for. We're looking into morning activities to get your brain ready for the day's discussions, and evening activities like game night to allow you a little bit of time to relax. If the weather's nice, we'll be cooking s'mores over the outdoor fire pit. So lots of good things in that way. But of course, most importantly, continuing education credits, because not only do you need a reason to come here to listen to all the discussions, but most importantly, to get the benefits that you need for your jobs. So we're working on continuing ed credits. If you have ideas for additional ones, let us know if we can get it in the amount of time we have left remaining. But it's important for us to make this event what you need it to be for your professional career. Next slide. Personally, for me, I think the most amazing thing about the New Jersey CRC and NJDP conference is the diversity of the speakers and the attendees. This little graph shows you what we have laid out for the speakers, and I really don't know of any other conference where we're able to bring together in an equal voice people from the universities, the nonprofits, the consulting world, state agencies, and the municipal governments. Unfortunately, our federal partners aren't able to travel so much right now, but we do have a couple federal voices that will be included. And on to the next slide. But none of this can happen without our sponsors. So NJCRC is not a nonprofit. We're literally just a consortium of people that get together because we care about these issues of climate and coastal resilience. And NJDEP, our partner, is working to help us maneuver how to put this all together. But without our sponsors, we couldn't keep our registration rates low. We couldn't bring in all the people that are coming together for this opportunity. We couldn't offer you all those networking opportunities, or I didn't mention the delicious food that will be provided throughout the conference. So a big thank you, next slide, to our lead sponsors, which include the Nature Conservancy and New Jersey Sea Grant, which has been helping us with the administration mechanics of the conference. And then our event sponsors, which include New Jersey Association for Floodplain Management on Monday night, and Princeton Hydro and Stantec on Tuesday night. Next slide. We have a number of principal sponsors who you will see throughout the conference, but do make sure you go to their booths and talk to them, meet some new people. And then we also have our executive sponsors, which is on the next slide. And our additional sponsors, which include Black and Beach, who are providing the name tags, and Rippled Waters. But all of these folks are so important to the success of this conference. So without these sponsors, this couldn't happen. So thank you to all of you. And then last slide, thank you to all of the volunteers. Oh, sorry, I jumped ahead. Just a quick reminder, the registration rates, early bird is tomorrow. We're still are looking for student volunteers. And if you do volunteer as a student, the registration rate is only $50. We need help with registration and with AV and all the different rooms. And I can't forget to mention our field trip, Resilient by Nature. We'll be visiting down in Cape May, in Stone Harbor, and Avalon. Hopefully the weather will be helping with those visits. But either way, these are amazing places in your state that have undertaken different projects to make sure that their local areas are more resilient to climate and coastal changes. So last, thanks to all the volunteers. And I hope I didn't leave anyone out. If I did, my apologies. But with that, if there's any quick questions, I'm happy to answer them, or you can always contact me by email. And I apologize if I'm a little bit slow, but we're getting so many emails in every day. And since we put out the early bird registration rate, the number of people signing up it's like 10 every hour. So the emails are just pouring in. But if you do email me, I will get back to you as soon as possible. But I look forward to seeing you all in March. Thanks.
Thanks, Terry. Carl, do you have anything that you want to add?
Sure. So I'll say that most of my work lately has really just been trying to keep up with Terry and the organizing team with all of the things that are going on. We're definitely at the point in the game when things are moving fast, and we've been adding information to the web on pretty much a daily basis, and sometimes multiple times per day. The next big step from a communications perspective will be to add the full agenda online. Although we haven't advertised it much, we do have a static PDF agenda on the website right now, and that does show the schedule of the talks, their topics, the speaker names. But a couple of days from now, probably next week, we'll be adding an interactive version of the agenda powered by our conference app, Whova. This is a really neat feature that allows you to click on the sessions that you're interested in. You can get bios of the speakers, read the abstracts of all the talks that are associated with that session, and a lot of other things. If you haven't yet, I would definitely encourage you to download the Whova app. This is the system that you would have used to register. And there's a link to download it on our website, but it does have that mobile app version. We expect that this will primarily be a paperless event, so you'll need it to kind of figure out your days since there's going to be multiple tracks of talks going on at any given time and lots of activities to choose throughout the 3 days. It also has some capabilities for things like chatting with attendees and communicating with organizers, sharing pictures, finding carpools, and all kinds of stuff that we've never even really tried to tap yet. My final point here would just be a request to this group, to our partners, to do what you can to spread the word about the conference, whether that be by nudging your coworkers to register or sharing it on your company social media platforms, newsletters, or anything else like that. And if anyone does need it, I did see that Amanda shared the link in the chat, and I'm open to any questions, as I'm sure Terry is.
Thank you. In the interest of time, I am going to move on. So if you have any questions, just throw them in the chat. And I'm going to let Angela give an update on the newly named Municipal Resource Group.
New identity, new year, new year. Really quick, just want to let the group know we're live and well coming into 2026 as a group. Alyssa and I co at the helm. We're keeping up with our work plan that we have. It was the 18-month work plan we put together a year ago, which is good until June 2026. And kind of just keeping on track with that. The membership has been transforming, but we're sticking with our monthly meetings, really looking to be a peer-to-peer and a resource group to one another as municipals. So we're very excited to come into the new year with some new members and a new name. I just want to follow up on the conference thing. One of the really, I think, the big achievements the group did, the organizing group, is we were able to get continuing education credits together for municipals, CPWM credits, the Public Works, municipal clerk, CFO. In my, world, that is the way that we're going to get the municipals there, that they'll get authorized to be at the conference. They're going to get professional development where it's really, really needed. So really, we've been working on it as a group, and a nice heavy lift from Amanda to really put each and every one of those applications together. They were very quick turnaround, but I think it was the early and often communication with them, because I've been back and forth with them since October at DCA for this. I think this is probably one of the most meaningful things that we can do for municipals in the resilience realm in New Jersey. I think this is a good lead-in. We'll have this conference, and then I think it cues us up to revisit the league and what our role can be there now. We've kind of skid the rails here now. They know us, they know that we have a nice track record, and now we have something to offer there. So we'll be spreading that around. The one thing that we wanted to work on, Alyssa was also really instrumental in this. And now that the real rules have come through, putting together that little kind of municipal cheat sheet, like what does this mean? I know the state has excellent resources, but I think from municipal to municipal, if we come up with something like, how does this relate to you in existing projects? Because people keep asking, what will this mean for an ongoing resilience restoration project? So we're hoping that as a team, we can distill that down into something maybe real consumable based on the state's information and then our partners' knowledge of actually reading it. So we're going to keep working on that. But we're always looking for other municipal members. So hopefully we can attract a few through the conference and keep going strong. So thanks, and happy to be here.
Awesome. Thanks, Angela.
Sure. And I don't know, Amanda, you would know what credits we got all together, but I can just talk to those other ones.
Yep, they are listed on the website now, so we can blast that out.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thanks.
All right. At our last full partnership meeting, we had a networking session where we were trying to engage, some ideas of for the collaborative, and one of the emerging topics was let's create a new professionals group, new professionals network. So I want to thank Maria and Janos for submitting a proposal to the board, which was approved. And as we're working out the kinks of what this network may look like, I wanted to pose it here to the group if there's anyone who's interested in joining as a mentee, mentor. These are the contacts to reach out to. I think we do have Janos on, but I want to make sure that we have enough time for our partner update. So putting the plug out there that we're going to get this up and running and start promoting it at the conference. And so, yeah, just a really great topic that emerged from you guys. So wanted to let you know an update on that. So thank you all. All right, partner updates. I'm going to hand it off to Steve from the Office of Planning Advocacy. I don't know if you have slides, but if you are on.
That's all right.
Okay, awesome.
Thank you, Amanda. And hello, everyone. Yeah, just happy to give you a quick update on what our office is up to right now. The UC estate plan update is mentioned on the slide. The big update is that the state plan has been adopted, if you haven't heard. And it was adopted on December 17th. And if you want a little factoid, it was 9,058 days after the previous plan was adopted in March of 2001. So well overdue, but finally accomplished. The SDRP is available on our website. It won't be printed and bound. It's just available digitally. So you can go to our website and download a copy for yourself if you haven't already. Looking forward for the rest of 2026 and beyond, we still have a lot of work to do. The work on the state plan isn't really finished. We are going to be focusing on updating the state plan policy map. That's one of our top priorities. We received about 1,500 requests for amendments to the map during the cross-acceptance process, and it became evident early on in the process that we would need to pause the mapping until after the adoption because it became obvious that we couldn't incorporate all of these changes to the map at the same time that we were also considering somewhat significant changes to the mapping criteria that were going to be written into the plan. So now the plan has the new criteria, including 2 new planning areas. And going forward, really in the next few weeks and months, we're going to be working closely with our partners, particularly the counties, which served as negotiating entities during the cross-acceptance process, to come up with a procedure for updating the map. We're also prioritizing working on how to treat special resource areas going forward. The preliminary draft of the SDRP had a list of potential areas that could be considered special resource areas, but we really didn't define the concept. We weren't 100% clear on what we were asking for. So we refined the concept. We gave it a firm definition in the final version of the state plan. And now we're going to be working on a procedure for reviewing and approving designating special resource areas going forward. So that's taking shape. That's also in the works right now. Plan endorsement is also going on concurrently. We had 5 municipalities that achieved plan endorsement during the course of the last year of working to update the state plan. And we've got a dozen or so towns that are still in the process of working towards plan endorsement. And we're looking for ways, as we said, as came out during the state plan update process, looking for ways to streamline the process going forward to make it less arduous and complicated. And to the extent that the state plan policy map procedure, the special resource area designation procedure, and the plan endorsement procedure can all be improved. We are looking into potentially updating the state planning rules. If you read them, you'll know that there are many areas for improvement, and we may be looking at amending them perhaps significantly going forward. And in the near term, we are also focusing on our outreach efforts. We've got a lot of meetings on our calendar, a lot of speaking engagements. We're reaching out to different groups. We'll be there in force at the conference in March, and we're focusing on not only just publicizing the SDRP, but also answering questions and facilitating its implementation. That's about that. That's about all I had. If anyone has any questions, I can take them now or I can take them offline.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve. If anyone has questions for Steve, go ahead and put them in the chat. Next up, we have Allison from Black and Beach.
Thanks, Amanda. Hi, everyone. Happy New Year. Today, I just wanted to briefly share a coastal resilience success story with you. Ocean City and Cape May County as a whole continue to charge forward to increase their coastal resilience through the implementation of numerous projects, large and small, and the topic today is home elevations. So Ocean City's Frank Donato, he's the chief financial officer and emergency manager for Ocean City, championed this FEMA home elevation grant for 16 properties. They took more of a regional approach and assembled homeowners across the county targeting those repetitive loss areas with properties in Ocean City, Stone Harbor, Upper Township, Sea Isle City, and West Wildwood. This was kicked off about a year ago with 10 homes right now moving forward that are currently overseeing their construction, contractor selection at various stages. Here's some photos of some of them in the air. 6 of the homes should be completed this spring, with the rest still going through the initial steps to begin construction. And certainly with the passing of the real rule, we will be taking a look at those who have not initiated their lift. But in summary, I just wanted to share that this regional approach was a successful model to secure the funding and streamline the management, but it really required that local champion to take it on. So Frank has been willing to take on that role on behalf of all of these communities and streamline all of the steps through this process, working with the homeowners, and he continues to just identify those competitive pathways to advance their strategies. And next slide, just wanted to share, we're very excited to attend the conference in March. So we have 3 presentations and look forward to seeing everyone there. Thanks, Amanda.
Thank you, Allison. Next up, I have Climate Central, Dan Rizza. If you do have to hop off, just a reminder that this is being recorded, so the recording will be uploaded to the website, but if you can stick around for a few more minutes, we'd like to get through the rest of these updates. Thank you.
Thanks, Amanda. I'll put the links in the chat of what I'm about to present. Good to see many of you again. For those of you not familiar with Climate Central, we're a nonprofit based in Princeton. I lead our Sea Level Rise team, and I'll share some of our recent releases that may be of use. Folks use our materials all the time for screening level risk assessment and communication and informing decisions, et cetera. So in November, we released a study that looked at toxic facilities and coastal flooding and how they impact communities across the coastline. We found that 5,500 hazardous facilities across the coastline are expected to be at risk during a 100-year coastal flood event by the end of the century. And if we reduce our pollution, that number can go down. We found that 2/3 of the facilities are at risk under various scenarios. Neighborhoods with higher proportions of vulnerable residents are more likely to have a hazardous site within a kilometer. There's a lot more information there at the website. We found that about 80% of the facilities are found in just 7 states, including New Jersey. So you can dig into the data. If you go to the next slide, I'll share one of the resources that we have at that link. Our map that shows hazardous facilities in the U.S. at risk of future flooding due to sea level rise, tides, and storm surge under different scenarios. And you can choose the state you're interested in. And the next map, the next slide shows coastal counties in the U.S. with hazardous facilities at risk and the total count. So you can explore. I'm happy to answer questions or demo the tool if you reach out to me. And I also wanted to mention on the next slide that we continued what NOAA was doing, the billion dollar disaster work that they had been leading. So Adam Smith's working with us now, and we're updating that actively. There'll be many updates to this over the next year. You can go to our website and really dig into the data. If you go to the next slide, you can see some of the views in our data show, you can dig in to see what the risks are in different states. And the slide after that also shows another view where you can look at different analysis within the states. And finally, and on the final slide, I don't think we've ever shared that we provide an ocean climate shift index tool, which is a system that computes the climate change fingerprint on daily ocean temperatures. So it indicates how human-caused climate change from the burning of fossil fuels has influenced the likelihood of daily sea surface temperatures occurring at nearly any location around the world's oceans. And so you can find more details at that URL that I shared, and I'm happy to get back to you with questions you may have. So those are my updates. Thanks again for the chance to provide them.
Thanks, Dan, and hoping to see you at the conference.
Looking forward to it.
All right, we have up next new partner, Jack, if you are on still. Hopefully. Oh, you're muted. Still muted. Let me see if I can unmute you.
How does
There
that?
you go. There you are.
I
Yep.
always have audio issues. Of course, I have to be the very last one and delay. Nonetheless, I am here with NOAA's Office of Habitat Conservation's Restoration Center. I have spoken with a number of you in the past, but those of you who don't know me, I'm working on restoration planning for the Diamond Alkali Superfund site, focusing mostly on the Lower Passaic River, Greater Newark Bay, and all the resources therein in that major watershed. The update that I have today is that the web portal that is going to solicit project ideas for restoration in this area will be active definitely next week, maybe as early as tomorrow. And I was hoping to be able to share the website with you and our notice and everything. That still working through some internal approvals, but again, I'm hopeful that that you guys will get word by tomorrow afternoon that it is available, but definitely next week at very latest. And again, this will be giving background information on Diamond Alkali and the restoration planning that we're doing, asking for project ideas in the area for the sake of restoring the injured. Resources, yes, Laura, I will definitely post the base camp when it is open for sure. And those projects will be included in a full restoration plan that we will be developing over the course of the next year. And the possibility exists that we will be able to fund a small number, or maybe a big number, I don't know, depends on how many projects we get, but we might be able to fund implementation of some of those projects. So keep your eyes on your email, and I will post to Basecamp when this is available, hopefully tomorrow afternoon, but definitely by next week. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys' patience.
Awesome.
Thanks
Jack.
everyone we're closing, right, adjourning here. Thanks everyone for joining from the co-chairs and the leadership of the Coastal Resilience Collaborative, and hope to see you all in March at the conference.